Welcome back to the Kennel, a Cleveland football podcast, and for the first time in 6+ years, the Browns have a winning record, which means this is the first ever episode of the Kennel in which the Browns have a winning record.
Back-to-back wins.
An historic day is truly upon us. I'm Stevie James Gian. This is episode 123 of the Kennel, a Cleveland football podcast, following up the game against the Washington football team in which the Browns, spoiler alert, won 34-20.
And what a better episode to debut our brand new backdrop than after 2 consecutive wins and a win against the Washington football team at home.
We're in the dog pound.
Browns. We're in the dog pound.
We're in front of it.
Or in front of by the dog pound.
If you're still just listening, check us out on YouTube. You can find us by searching Football Kennel. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Football Kennel, Facebook as well. Sometimes we do some stuff there. We're still probably part of the ATB Sports Network. You can follow them on Twitter at ATB Sports or visit their website. atbsports.com.net is what I meant. It was a joke, just keeping you
on your toes. I was ready.
I was like, there. Yep, you were good. You were on it. I respect that. I appreciate it. And make sure you rate 5 stars if you are on Apple Podcasts. Leave a comment, review,
subscribe,
something like that.
All the keywords, all the
stuff. Subscribe if you're on YouTube. Notification bell. I'm over it. Let's get into this. Beautiful. Well, it wasn't a beautiful game, but we'll talk about it. But it was incredible because we did win 2 games in a row. We're 2-1 on the season. We beat the Washington football team 34-20.
All right, game review. So getting right into it, the Browns beat the Washington football team 34-20. We're, like you said, 2-1, and the Washington football team goes to 1-2.
They played well. That defensive front, even though Chase Young went out with an injury, was still nothing to sneeze at. It was pretty difficult, and we saw that in the first half. They were able to slow down the run until things got going, and they were able to put a lot of pressure on Baker Mayfield. So this team may not be the best team, but
they showed some grit. I was a little bit afraid that after coming out of the half, when they were getting into a groove offensively and even defensively, coming to a few stops, I think we had negative yardage the first 2 plays out of halftime.
First 2 drives coming out of halftime.
First 2 drives, right? First 2 drives.
Negative 12 yards total.
I felt like the Browns of old were about to make an appearance.
I even said, I was like, put the jerseys back on and say Cleveland on the front, because that's what we're playing like.
That's but of course the Browns got it together. The run game was fruitful near the second half of the game, and then Baker got into the groove after those first 2 drives. And you could just tell, man, the whole game, he had a certain energy to him, a certain swagger. He was a leader out there. Did you saw the preview or the little clip from the TV show, from the TV game, where they showed him blinking back to Landry after that.
Giving him a wink?
Yeah, after that first down.
Yeah.
So it was fun to watch them offensively and even defensively. I feel like this game was a lot of fun from the Browns. A very competitive.
Oh, absolutely. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of the game, we put together some facts. A lot of them were on during the game, so some of the stuff you might have already heard, but some pretty significant...
No. All of our listeners get their Browns information strictly from here. Some of them don't even watch the game.
Yeah, they just listen to this.
They just listen to the post-game.
Or they watch the game on mute.
Yeah.
Just so they don't get any... You don't want to get any other people opinions.
They record the live stream, and then they watch us while watching the game.
There's a lot of spoiler
listen to us
in there.
Yeah.
It would be fun one day if we did a live stream to the game. You guys could tune in. Anyways, getting ahead of ourselves. So here's some interesting things that some streaks, some facts, some stuff that has occurred. Some of it's a little embarrassing, but it's over with now. So the Browns had gone 84 consecutive games with a record of 500 or under, which was the longest active streak in the NFL. Not the longest streak ever, so we didn't break that record outright, thank God.
That was like the Cowboys, they said?
I think it was the Raiders.
The Raiders.
Potentially the Raiders.
Raiders 110 games consecutive.
Yeah, 110 without being over 500.
Yep.
So we did 84, which was the longest consecutive streak. Now it falls to the Giants, who are at like 50-something consecutive games, and I think they're already 0-3 this year, so it's probably going to be a disaster moving forward. But the last time we were over 500 was that magical season with Brian Hoyer, which was December 14th of 2014, almost 6 years ago.
And then the wheels fell off. Mike Pettin was fired.
Happened. Yep.
Johnny Manziel fiasco, all that stuff.
Yep. All that fun stuff happened. So we broke that. Feels good.
Yeah.
Winning record.
Yep.
Winning record.
Then we went. Then this is the first time with 30-plus points in consecutive games since 2010 for the Cleveland Browns.
Since 2010.
It's pretty cool, though.
We haven't had over 30 points in a decade.
In consecutive games.
That's what I mean. That's
In a decade,
Sad.
though. That's still pretty sad, yeah.
That's in the NFL. That's all offensively driven nowadays.
Yeah,
Phew.
for sure.
Painful.
But still, it's
hurts
here.
me.
It's here now. The new
It is
era.
here now. I know it is, and I think we said that in the pregame episode that we needed to try to get over 30. We didn't know this stat at the time, but.
And since I'm
Good to know.
wearing the Nick Chubb jersey, I'll just go ahead with the Nick Chubb factoid. Nick Chubb is the first Browns player with 100+ rushing yards and 2+ rushing touchdowns in consecutive games since 1967.
Which I'm going to assume was Jim Brown.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to look it
They
up.
they didn't have it on the little factoid on the TV, so
It was probably Jim Brown.
yeah.
If I had to bet $1 million, I would bet Jim Brown.
I'll you keep it going while I look it up. Actually,
So this is the first time the Browns go 2-1 since 2011. It's been that long since we've had this good of a record 3 games into the season. This good at 2-1. But that's just the reality of the situation. So we're getting things turned around. It feels good. These are ugly records and streaks, but what's important is they're coming up because we're breaking them. So that's extremely important to remember. While you continue to look up those stats, I'm sure you've all heard about this a million times, but it's worth mentioning. This is the first time in an NFL game that there is a female head coach on each sideline, as well as a female referee. So you got women all over the place doing their thing, and that's it's pretty cool.
yeah, I couldn't find anything about it, so
right.
I'm giving up on it. But yeah,
right.
it is really cool. It is really cool to finally have, I mean, man, we say this word a lot in this podcast, but the consistency part of everything we've been hoping for with Kevin Stefanski is coming together, especially after a scary week 1 game against the Ravens where it looked like we suck again. You know, it just looked like another season of misery was ahead of us. And I mean, I'm not going to lie. I was scared coming into the game against the Bengals because, like I said, if we lost to a rookie quarterback on a short week, it was a telltale sign that we were about to have a long, miserable season this year with the Cleveland Browns of 2020 and the Kevin Stefanski era. But obviously, I mean, that game is behind us because this Browns team faced adversity today against a Washington football team that has shown before they can come back from a halftime deficit. They did it against the Eagles, and they played tough in week 2 as well. So I think obviously Ron Rivera is a great motivator, and like we mentioned, we were a little bit afraid coming out of the half that if any team could turn it around, it would be a team helmed by Ron Rivera at head coach, especially him going through what he's going through right now and still being out there.
Yeah, fighting through cancer and chemotherapy and still being a head coach on the sideline, which I don't know how many people would have the cojones to do something like that, but you would never even know watching him on the sideline that he was dealing with anything at all. So that speaks to the quality of the man. In this game, the Redskins were able to score first. We got the ball first, ended up having to punt. The Redskins get on the board first, and they're up 7-0, and then we go on to score 17 unanswered points going into halftime, so we're up 17-7. We're both feeling really good about it. Your fiance made us a bunch of awesome nachos and bean dip and tacos.
Kudos to her.
Yeah,
She's amazing.
We were having a great time. So we're feeling good, moral of the story. And we're going into the third quarter, and then all of a sudden, on our first 2 drives, we mentioned it earlier in the show, we go from -6 yards for a total of down 12 yards over the course of the first 2 drives. And meanwhile, the Redskins are starting to pick up momentum. We close out the third quarter, and all of a sudden, it's 20-17. And this is when I was making the comments that you should put on the old jerseys that say Cleveland on them. And we never lose hope or faith. If you've been listening to us for a while, you know that we're like the most optimistic, unreasonable Browns fans.
During game time, I think we definitely are cynical and we're extremely passionate. So the emotion plays into it.
Get a little emotional. So we're getting a little pissed off, getting a little emotional. And just when we're not losing hope, but getting the most frustrated that we had throughout the game, we put together that beautiful 11-play drive that's mostly spearheaded with Nick Chubb runs, a little bit of Kareem Hunt sprinkled in there. Nice pass from Baker to OBJ on the sideline on a critical third down play. I'm pretty sure it was that drive. It's all blurred now. And in the fourth quarter, we're able to score 17 points to their nothing and win this game 34-20. And I listened to some of Baker's post-game comments, post-game interview stuff, and he didn't say it, but you could tell that he was feeling like he was a little critical of himself, but you could tell that he was feeling like we should have blown this team out. And that's something I want to talk about before we even get into the defense and how well they played today and what they were able to do in the turnover game. I will say from an offensive standpoint, I just don't think we played that well. Not bad, but I feel like we still have a tremendous amount of room for growth. But in saying that, we were able to win this game by 2 touchdowns.
So 2 points. I want to make 2 points. First, I want to go back to the running back thing that we were trying to figure out. I haven't found who it was, but it can't be Jim Brown because he left the Browns in 1965.
Oh,
so this was 1967. So it's either Charlie Haraway or Larry Condra. We had a bunch of running backs back in the day. So we had like combination running back, fullbacks, Ernie Green, Nick Pietrosante.
That's a great name.
Yeah, so it's one of those guys. And then the other thing is, I appreciate seeing that from Baker, that he still has criticism on himself and on this offensive system, and the fact that they're still figuring it out, and that they have higher expectations for themselves than beating a team 34-20. But I mean, the credit I think has to go to this Washington defense. They stifled the run up until the very end of the game. I mean, we mentioned it a few times where they were able to seal those gaps extremely effectively well against Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. So they were keeping us on our toes offensively and really making Mayfield put it more on his shoulder. So I guess it's almost fair for him to criticize himself and the ability that he has with this offense to not blow this team out, and the fact that they were still able to hold him to 30 points, 34 points before the end of the game.
Yeah, and we really controlled the ball this game, which I think is nice, especially dealing with what we had to deal with their front.
Do you notice that I'm looking at the stat sheets that Stevie has pulled up on his computer, and they have the short names for the team. So it says Browns, and for Washington it says football team.
I know, it's so funny. So their name is awesome, dude.
Team
football
Browns,
team.
football team.
Football team and Browns. No, football team is the best name. They should keep it. But in the first half, we controlled the time possession, 17 minutes and 40 seconds to their 12 minutes and 20 seconds. Like you said, in the first quarter, we struggled to get the ball to get the running game going. But at halftime, Nick Chubb had 53 yards on 12 carries, only 4.4 yards per carry, which I know is still good, but for Nick Chubb, that's a little low, and he was able to get in the end zone. It wasn't until the second half when we were really able to blow the lid off, get Kareem Hunt involved. And talking about Kevin Stefanski in this running game, I've just been blown away at how he's been able to use both of them.
Yeah. Something we didn't think was possible if we were under Freddie Kitchens.
Uses them both perfectly.
We weren't able to figure out how to use Nick Chubb, Carlos Hyde, and Duke Johnson.
Yeah, we've had some difficulties.
Can you imagine what Duke Johnson would be doing right now with this offense?
Getting hurt.
But
no, I'm kidding. I know. I'm sorry. I love Duke Johnson.
Duke Johnson's the man.
He is the man.
Don't you dare.
I know. I did that. It was, I'm sorry.
I am way happier with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. Don't get me wrong.
Obviously. How could you not be?
But
we got a third-round pick for Duke Johnson, which is pretty incredible.
His name.
We got a third-rounder.
Put some respect on it.
Yeah, I respect him. We got a third-rounder for him. That's
he never
incredible.
got a fair usage here.
No, and he's not getting fair usage in Houston either.
No.
But what are you going to do? Anyways, back to the Browns.
The Browns are more important.
Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. I love it because it's not so much that like he gives them drives off and stuff like that. He does kind of ride the hot hand, but as soon as Nick Chubb needs a breather, he brings Kareem Hunt in. You get a lot of Nick Chubb early in the game, you get a lot of Kareem Hunt towards the end, but still you have Nick Chubb in there to make those impact plays. And it looked like in this game, even in the first half, Kareem Hunt's kind of become the third down back. You see Nick Chubb coming out a lot on third down and Kareem Hunt going in, which makes sense because this is his second game in a row catching a touchdown pass.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think they work well as a 1-2 punch. And I mean, of course, I think the expectation from the fan base and from anybody that really understands Kevin Stefanski and the offensive scheme that he's put together, we knew, that Nick Chubb was going to be used as the first and second down back with Kareem Hunt being peppered in as, options out of the backfield in passing situations, and obviously the third down back. But they have a good rotation. You saw, after Nick Chubb got that touchdown, you started seeing Kareem Hunt get more play, even on first and second down. He kind of like tagged him in, like, you're in, like a WWE match, a tag team match. So you love to see it.
Yeah, and they're best buds. They're my favorite part.
They're
about
like
this
polar
team.
opposites. It's hilarious too.
Know,
Nick Chubb is
so
super
fun.
serious and looks angry all the time, all business. And Kareem Hunt is like more lighthearted. You can't keep his mouth shut.
But you see that, and even Kareem Hunt says that Nick Chubb talks to him all the time. So what we have in that backfield is just beyond special, and it's the most fun part about our team. And I love running the ball like crazy. I love that we strengthen the offensive line. I think, honestly, in this game, this is the toughest test that our offensive line is going to have to deal with all year, outside of maybe the Steelers. And the Ravens are always difficult. But in terms of like body for body individual matchups against the offensive line, you could argue the Redskins have, if not the best defensive line, they're in that conversation. They're leading the NFL in sacks, and they're loaded with first rounders. I know Chase Young went out in this game, but he's replaced by Ryan Kerrigan, who's one of the better pass rushers, veteran pass rushers in the league. So
still though, big loss.
Big loss.
Losing him with a groin injury. And
big loss.
Obviously, we also lost Denzel Ward. He didn't play in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, injuries happen. They're a part of the game. You say it all the time, so it is what it is. But I think the offensive line was able to really show what it's made of today. I love Kevin Stefanski committing to the running game. There's been multiple times where he could have abandoned it, but he committed to it. And we saw the same thing we've been seeing. I said previous episode, I was curious to see what the opening game script was going to look like, what kind of stuff Stefanski would be running, how he'd script the opening. And we saw for the second game in a row, a more propensity to pass on the opening drive or two. We're using the pass to set up the run. And Baker looks really nice. Stefanski talked about how he gets together with the coaching staff and some of the players to work out the first roughly 15 plays of the game to really sequence those in. And you can see it in what we're doing, that the whole offense is very comfortable with those 15 plays that are getting scripted.
And I love the plays that we're putting in there, the misdirections, we're doing a lot of motion before the snap of the football. All that stuff is I mean, it's the kind of sequences we wanted to see from a Browns offense since we drafted Baker, since we got OBJ. I know that's only 2 seasons, but even back to when we got Jarvis Landry, I think that's kind of always the offense we wanted to see with these players, because it's what fits best for their strong suit.
And it's
getting Baker out of the pocket.
Yes.
Getting that motion.
And it feels like for the first time in a long time, our head coach is intelligent. He has yet to do anything where you're like, what? I mean, you can question some of his aggressive fourth down calls. Not so much in this game, but like generally speaking, sure, that's fair to some extent. But so far, I know it's been only 3 games, but there's been no shots of him on the sideline looking like an idiot. There's been no just blunders, not just in terms of necessarily like a play call. I mean, that's big, but not just in terms of that, but just in terms of the team. The team seems on the field to be intelligent.
Yeah.
Like, this is a very well coached team. And we've had limited penalties, limited mistakes. Today you saw Jedrick Wills have a couple false starts at left tackle.
He's afforded a couple rookie mistakes.
You're going to have that. He's a rookie. You could tell he was upset about it. I think Wyatt Teller had a mistake as well. Like a hold, but you're going to have those. But generally speaking, our team has not been through 3 games very penalized. Usually, we're one of the most penalized teams.
I mean, remember, we're just a season away from the game against the Titans, where we had a record number of flags thrown our way.
Yep.
And right out the gate, we were the most penalized team.
And we were the whole year.
Up until, the very end of the season.
The whole year. And now
we're only a year removed from that. So that's very telling on what Stefanski and the staff has been able to instill on this team.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the stats. Maybe we'll talk about it in our next episode. But in terms of total penalties, like we've got to be way down from where we usually are, and in comparing us to the rest of the league. And that's just been something that's really nice. So the play calling's been intelligent. The lack of penalties has been wonderful. And on offense and defense too, it doesn't feel like we're trying to do anything too crazy. We're not trying to get too cute, but we're also not super predictable. You can tell now that our identity is running the ball, and we're going to commit to that. But you don't know when we're going to pull the play action. I mean, every year for so long, when the offense sets up, I'll be like, okay, they're going to run it here. Okay, they're going to run it to the right. Okay, this is going to be a passing play. And with this team, that's a lot harder to do, because there's times where I'm definitely about to run it. Oh, stick play action. Not, you know what I mean?
It fooled me. Yeah, you mentioned that actually a few times. And another nice thing that I like to see that I think is really nice is no turnovers.
Yep. I was gonna get into it. I was thinking, should we wait for the quick predicts results? But
nah,
we can talk about it now.
It definitely needs to get brought up. Zero turnovers is huge. Not just from Baker, which is the most important,
of course,
for sure. But in general, no turnovers, no fumbles, nothing crazy happened. Oh, we did have that fumble. Does it count when it's a fumble on the defense?
No,
because we didn't lose it.
It's not. But even if you lose it, it's not a turnover per se because you technically haven't changed possession. It's a little confusing.
What? Oh, I get it. I guess.
I mean, maybe it counts, but that seems silly to me.
I think it counts. I think it does count.
I don't like that.
Because
I'm calling the NFL.
Because when you recover a fumble, possession is changed. It doesn't matter if the play is ongoing.
Is it though? Because say it's 3rd and 20, and I throw a pass down the field, a receiver catches it, and then it's a fumble, and that guy runs it back, and then fumbles, and the offense recovers. They get a first down now. They could get rewarded a first down for fumbling and getting it back.
I believe you do.
See, that's crazy to me.
I believe you do. I believe this happened very recently, like maybe week 2, week 1.
I don't like these rules. I'm calling the NFL. I'm calling him. I got a guy.
I could be wrong. I
got a guy.
I believe you do, but I could be wrong.
I don't have a guy. That's not true.
Because I feel like you pick up the ball, you have possession. Gesundheit. Had to sneeze.
All right, carry on.
Yeah,
as you were.
I was just saying. I feel like you pick up the ball, you have possession. So if you lose it again, you lost possession of the football, and it's given to the other team. So yeah, it's like a new, fresh start.
All right, that's fine. Whatever. But moral of the story is we didn't have any turnovers, and this is a good segue into talking about the defense. We forced 5 turnovers. They had 5 turnovers, and we didn't have any. Now, one of their turnovers was at the end of the half, and Antonio Gibson was just trying to get upfield, and it wasn't that big of a deal. But we had 4 turnovers that really meant something, and what's most important is we were able to turn those turnovers into touchdowns.
Yeah, the thing I love about this game in particular is the fact that we got everything right for keys for the game. Because we talked about managing the game defensively, we talked about running the football offensively, and we talked about turnovers being key both offensively and defensively. Obviously not having any turnovers offensively, and finally generating some defensively. I believe we hadn't done any up to this point.
Turnovers?
Did we have any?
We had a fumble that Myles Garrett had caused. This is the second consecutive game.
Second consecutive game with the strip sack.
Yep.
Strip sack fumble. So, still one fumble is not a very good look for a defense that was already struggling and had allowed, I believe, 68 points between week 1 and week 2. So this is exactly what we wanted to see and exactly what we needed to get the win.
Well, yeah, after giving up over 30 points in each of the first 2 games, we had both said that especially going against a young quarterback in Dwayne Haskins, he hasn't even started full 16 games yet. This is only his second season. He wasn't the starter for all of last year. So we had said going up against someone like that, there's no reason for us to be giving up over 30 points for a 3rd week in a row. And we were able to keep them under. There were some times where they were able to move the ball. One guy who we didn't really talk about in our pregame episode, which we should have, is Terry McLaurin, who going into this game was targeted in like 40% of their passing attempts or something insane like that. This is a speed guy of Ohio State, lots of skill. Someone I was
played with Haskins.
Yep. So they have their chemistry going back to college. So it was someone I was a little concerned with, but we held him to 4 catches on 8 targets, still 83 yards. He had some moments. But again, and we haven't talked enough about this, is this defense is designed to bend but don't break. And we haven't seen this defense through 3 games. I know the Ravens were able to score a lot of points and hurt us, but we haven't seen this defense give up any big plays. It's all been kept in front of them, and we've been able to keep the offense honest, and it's mostly been the short stuff that we've had to deal with.
I think that's debatable. I think especially against the Ravens, we saw a lot of struggle deep down the middle against the tight end.
But no big plays.
I think there were for sure a couple big plays.
No big plays.
I don't know, man. It's a big play when you're, maybe in the red zone and you score up the middle.
I'm talking about long plays. Yes, we gave up touchdowns, but I'm talking about 50-yard plays, 40-yard plays.
I think it's a little too soon to start making that call on this defense. I think I mean they're definitely showing signs of turning it around, and obviously as we get more healthy, that's good to see. But I still think it's a little too early to give it to. I mean, the fact that we let Washington score more than 17, in my opinion, is still a little bit concerning when it comes to our defensive ability. But 5 turnovers, we played relatively well. I think that's good.
Well, my point stands. Through 3 games, we have not given up any long plays. Is that better?
Long.
That's what
You're
I mean
so
by
specific.
That's what I mean by big plays.
Okay.
Obviously, we've allowed touchdowns.
Now we know that you were right.
I was right the whole time.
I am winning at a lot of other things though, like the schedule prediction.
Per usual, I'm right.
Per usual, I am winning at the schedule prediction.
So as we're all used to, I'm right and Gian's wrong. So no, we're talking about getting back to normal. Anyways. So that's one thing I like about the defense.
Let me see. Ravens.
The thing we are missing is the ability to force turnovers and the ability to keep the other team out of the end zone. Now, I agree with you that the Redskins getting 20 points is a little concerning, but we were able to force 5 turnovers in this game. I know this isn't the best offense in the NFL, but they're still an NFL offense, and anytime you can force 5 turnovers, it's a good day. So that's something that we can hang our hats on. That's something we can definitely be proud of. And I think also this defense is still a lot of pieces coming in. Like we saw for the first time Carl Joseph, who was able to make a big interception in this game and make a big impact. We were able to see Kevin Johnson get into the game and make a big impact. BJ Goodson, who had an interception today, played very well. He's someone that's gotten better each week, slowly but surely. So the cohesion of the defense is really starting to pick up, and we're still missing guys like Greedy Williams, Olivier Vernon, which these guys are always hurt, so it is what it is. But just seeing this defense come together, and this is a team like the rest of the NFL that hasn't had any preseason games, so we're watching our guys with a rookie head coach, first-time defensive coordinator, et cetera, figuring this stuff out as we go. And like we said, I think it was last episode or the episode before, I'm confident so far for the first time we're going to see progression throughout the year rather than random moments of things going well and having an unpredictable team that ultimately falls apart at the end.
Sure, yeah.
And that feels good.
It does.
It feels really good.
I don't disagree with that.
Excellent. So you're back to agreeing that I'm always right.
I know.
We fell off for a little there.
I didn't say that.
But now we're back.
That's not what I said.
I appreciate you being so kind.
I will not.
It's very nice.
I object.
You're a reasonable man.
Objection.
Reasonable man.
Objection.
But yeah, so what did you think about the defense? I know they give up maybe a little more points than you would have liked to see, but overall their performance as a whole.
I think obviously, coming out of week 1 and even allowing what we allowed from the Bengals, coming back and then them scoring 30 points on us, it was a little bit concerning. 68 points between 2 games coming into week 3 was. I was nervous because I felt like we weren't always going to face a defense like the Bengals defense where they were struggling. Obviously, coming into this Washington game, the expectation was that they were going to be able to generate a lot more pressure onto Baker than they were, and really they weren't. Our offensive line really kept it together, getting back our Jack Conklin and not having to have Chris Hubbard out there even though he played well was a big sign of what was coming from us offensively. And then obviously they lost Chase Young, but there's still a bit of concern, but it's a good sign to see them being able to keep this game manageable, generate turnovers, generate pressure, and I'd like to see it continue before I make any big predictions on what our defense is going to be for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and what you love to see, too, in this game is Myles Garrett, 2 sacks, another strip sack, so that's 2 games in a row, forcing a fumble and a sack. In this one, he's able to force the fumble and recover it himself, which you love to see. And that's why we made Myles Garrett the highest paid non-quarterback or the highest paid defensive player, whichever it is, in the NFL to make those plays where it matters. And in both games, these strip sacks were later in the game when we needed to help seal the win.
That is a good point.
So seeing him make those impact
plays when it matters.
Yeah, seeing him make those impact plays is huge for me. That's why we drafted him. That's why we paid him. That's why he's one of our favorite players.
Sure.
So seeing that happen now through 3 games, he's got 3 sacks. 2 of them are strip sacks. So that's a beautiful thing that you love to see. And I think this defense is going to keep getting better. I don't think we have the personnel to have a top 5 defense necessarily, but I think we have the talent in the right kind of coaching to be a formidable defense, to be a defense that may end up finishing middle of the pack in terms of yards and points, but a defense that has playmakers like Myles Garrett, like Denzel Ward, etc., that can impact a game in a big moment. And that's what you really need to win in this league. And going back to the time of possession, if we're able to run the ball like we are, we don't have to have our defense on the field for that long. So when they are, in theory, if we're playing with a lead, maintaining possession, you have a fresh defense on the field against a team that has to pass, and that's when guys like Myles Garrett can go crazy.
Can step into the play.
So
yeah.
I think the defense can definitely be good enough for us to have a lot of success.
Yeah, I mean,
but I don't think they're ever going to be a great defense this year.
I think if defensively and offensively we play the game we played today against the Washington football team, there is definitely a chance for us to A, make it to the playoffs, and B, keep it consistent, which is really the key word, and then keep developing these young players into what we want to see, which is, a watchable, competitive, fun football team. And it's been nice to finally get that 2 games in. Obviously, watching them against the Bengals was a lot of fun, despite the Bengals fighting back. And then this game, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to watch him offensively. It was a lot of fun to watch him defensively. So it was really well balanced between both sides, and that's what we need to win.
Yeah, and that's what's nice about Kevin Stefanski is he keeps it even keel. I mean, they talked a lot about after the game of complementary football and you get the turnovers, you score the points off turnovers, you control field position, you have a good punter, etc. That's all elements of complementary football. But moving further past that is we've always had teams that are so streaky, so emotional, and typically when the wheels start to fall off, the wheels really fall off. So when it was us going down 20-17 going into the fourth quarter, Browns of old, you're like, we're gonna end up losing by 2 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm. We can't come back from this, or a lot of those situations.
Yeah, especially when we had those first 2 drives.
Finding ways to lose.
Yeah, exactly. We had those first 2 drives that went for negative 12 yards. The old Browns Baker would have came out that 3rd drive, forced a pass, interception. And it all spiraled. But the thing that gets me the most excited about this game is how we've seen it with Kevin Stefanski in post conferences and interviews, and he keeps it even keel. But you can see throughout the game that this team in general is never too high or too low. We don't over-celebrate after touchdowns. We don't over-celebrate after good drives. And we don't get overly down on ourselves when things don't go our way.
I hate to keep referencing last year with Freddie Kitchens, but I mean, we're only a year removed from that head coaching fiasco and that situation with the front office. And I know we mentioned it a few different times, a few different weeks, that the Browns just couldn't overcome adversity. Yep. And we saw that today with, 2 plays, again, negative yard, or 2 drives coming out of the half with negative yardage. Seemingly, we were struggling, and offensively, the Washington football team was generating yardage. We're getting down the field. We're scoring points. It was looking like the Browns of old, and it was looking like that adversity was going to kill the momentum that we had coming into the half. But Baker, Chubb, that offensive line play, we made the difference and turned it around, overcame that small adversity in the grand scheme of the football season. But ultimately, I mean, things that we saw last year that they weren't able to overcome that were extremely concerning. So it's good to see.
And that's what football is all about. And in every football game, you're going to have adversity. There's going to be turnovers. There's going to be penalties. There's going to be drives that suck. You're going to have these problems. And when you're an immature team like the team we were, and you fall into that, then you just spiral and lose and you suck and it's a nightmare. So you're going to have, and the same goes the opposite way. When you have success, you can't get too into that success because then all of a sudden you're going to force a pass because you're feeling yourself and it's going to get picked off and run the other way.
Which is why it's good that we're seeing from Baker those comments about, being hard on himself, expecting more. These are good things.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Talking about long plays, the Ravens did have 1 long play on us.
I was going to say, I didn't want to bring it back, but I was going to ask you, do you consider 47
yards a long play?
Yeah, okay. All right. I commend you for bringing it up and correcting yourself.
Burn the tape.
It never happened. If at first I was like, you know what, water under the bridge. He can think he's right this one.
If at first I don't succeed, I destroy any evidence that I ever tried. That's the way to live. Okay, so with that being said, I feel really good about the Browns. Next week, we have a really tough matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. So make sure you tune in for our pregame episode, most likely on Thursday morning. We'll probably get that out to break down the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas. That's going to be tough. But before we do that, we have to get to our hashtag Kennel Quick Predicts and our results. We had a handful of people participate, so it's time to give out some imaginary points that don't matter.
So I think, I hate to keep going back on this, but it's extremely important to me for some reason. I feel like someone's going to bring it up in the comments, and they're going to be like, it was this Browns football player. If I had to guess who was a player from 1967, I believe it was Leroy Kelly.
Okay. With the 100 back-to-back 100-plus yards, 2+ touchdowns?
2+ touchdowns in consecutive games, yeah. Because After Jim Brown retired for the 1966 season,
Well, did they say what year it was? 1967?
1967.
Okay.
So for the next 3 years, after Jim Brown retired, Kelly became the starter for the Browns as a running back fullback. And for the next 3 years, he rushed for 1,000 yards, led the NFL in rushing touchdowns, and won all NFL and starting Pro Bowl honors.
Wow. That's pretty significant. So it was probably him.
If I had to guess.
If I had to guess. So yeah, I'd put money on it. Leroy Kelly was the guy.
Leroy Kelly. Anyways.
Anywho,
Kennel Quick Predicts.
Yes. It is time.
It is time.
Handful of people participated, so we're going to shout you out if you were correct. If you weren't correct, then we're just not going to talk about you. Just kidding. But I think everybody at least got one right. So
everyone did really well. So we had one Twitter participant and 2 YouTube participants. So we have
excellent. So you guys got to step up.
So we're going to give the shout outs. Casey K, or at Casey Kinnaman. He's a friend of the show. He's been following us on Twitter for quite a while, listening for quite a while, and always interacting with us. And then on YouTube, we have Patrick, which is a new fan, maybe, possibly. He could be an older listener.
I know him.
You know him personally?
Yeah, I know him personally.
Are you serious?
Yeah. He works for me.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Fitz. Thank you, Fitz, for participating.
Okay, Fitz.
You know
nice.
Fitz.
Nice. Yeah, I do know Fitz. Okay. And then Brian, which is Brian Evansick from Twitter. You know him?
Yeah.
He's another friend of the show.
Yeah, he's good.
So now he's on YouTube, following us on YouTube. Thank you, Brian. Thanks for participating and following and being a friend of the show. So let's kick it right off. Remember, the points don't matter. We don't keep track, but we kind of have this rule where it's kind of like Price is Right rules.
Yes.
So if you go over, you don't win points.
Yes, we get it.
Okay.
First
one, Myles Garrett sacks. So between me and you, we both win.
We each said 2?
We each said 2. Myles Garrett had 2 sacks.
So did Casey K and so did Brian.
And going into our participants, Casey K.
He did say 1 strip. Wow.
Brian, he get bonus points.
Wow.
So points for me and you.
Impressive. He nailed it.
Points for Casey and Brian, and then Casey gets some bonus points there for guessing the strip.
Very, very impressive.
Very impressive. So we're going on to Nick Chubb rushing yards. So he went for 108 rushing yards, and we both lost it because we both went way over.
A little crazy.
You went 151, I went 129.
My gut was telling me 300.
And I was expecting just a heavy rushing game, so I was going with 129. And on to our participants, Casey, 116, so he goes over, but he also guesses 2 touchdowns. So I don't want to give him points.
He deserves some points.
I'm giving him kudos.
He was only 8 yards off.
We specifically asked for the yardage.
I know, but he was 8 yards off, and he guessed 2 touchdowns. I respect a man who doesn't want to follow the rules totally.
Okay, fine. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Give him a little point.
So 1 point for Casey, and then Patrick really. Brian got 132, so Patrick really with 102.
He's the real winner.
Gets the real points from this quick predict.
All right, Baker Mayfield turnovers. I had to say 1 because, like I said, I couldn't bet against it until I saw it, and not go down. But you were confident. You said 0 turnovers.
Big goose egg, and I got it.
Brian said 0 turnovers, so the 2 of you guys get points.
Yeah, we get points.
Very impressive.
And I just wanted to point out that Casey said 1 fumble because apparently you jinxed it.
Yeah, because I said Baker never fumbles, but then he didn't. So the jinx is broken.
The jinx is broken.
We're good. Washington total sacks. I was a little overconfident on this one. I went with 0. You said 1, which is less than 2. So I guess you get some credit for that.
I get points.
But again, Casey, who's been just flawless
the winner
in these
of
guesses,
our quick predicts so far, by far.
He said 2. So he's
nails it on the head.
He's absolutely killing it. And then going into
points for careful points
for Casey.
For me and points for Casey.
I don't think you get points.
I get points. I get points because it's me and you, and then everybody else.
I'm just saying it's a stretch.
That's how we play quick predicts. Did you forget? I know we were on a comeback. We had a hiatus.
It's a stretch.
Points.
Going to final score now.
For week 3.
A lot of us are pretty close. So a lot of us, except for you, we're all in the 31-17, 31-24,
but I guess the Browns, I get points for the win. We've always done it this way.
We all picked the Browns, so we all get points for that. And everyone was really close to the actual score except for you.
Except for me, so everyone gets extra points that I don't get for,
Hey, the Browns actually did better than you thought they would, though.
That's fair.
So that's pretty exciting.
No, for sure.
That's pretty exciting.
That's for sure. But we were all, relatively close between what the expectation was. 34-20 obviously being the actual score, and everyone is around there. Casey and Patrick both 31, along with you. They both guessed 24 for Washington. Brian guessed 17. You guessed 17. So, I guess 16. We're all right around there.
Yeah.
So points for everyone. And then if we reference our episode 120 NFL schedule prediction for 2020, we both guessed the win for the Browns against Washington, but I am doing better than you with the record.
So far,
2-1.
you're perfect. Yeah. You have predicted every game correctly.
So I won today, this week again, like I usually do here. On the
so
Quick
again,
Predicts.
you know may be predicting the record more accurately, but you're not as good as a fan as me because I have us undefeated.
Well, this is about winning. This is about winning, not about being a fan. Okay, I'm trying to win.
That.
I'm extremely competitive, and I don't.
So there's that.
I don't care. I have a Browns podcast. I don't need to prove my fandom. I have more jerseys than you.
Well, not all time. I've had many jerseys throughout the year.
If you don't currently have them, they don't count.
Well, that's not fair.
How is that not fair?
I have more Browns bobbleheads than you.
Okay.
5-0.
I have 0.
Yeah,
You're right.
so I am blowing you out in that category.
But how many jerseys do you have?
I also have more Browns Funko Pops than you.
I don't collect Funko Pops.
Me neither, and I'm still beating you 2-0.
That's a lie. You clearly do. You have a bunch of them right there off of the camera
those
view.
were free.
You have like 100 Funko
Pops. There's 2 over there. That's not true.
I see hundreds of them.
He's a liar. Anyways, that wraps it up for today. Thanks for dealing with us. It's been
and thanks for everybody that participated on hashtag Kennel Quick Predicts.
Very, very fun. Moving into next week, we're on to Dallas, so make sure you tune in on Thursday. Subscribe, rate 5 stars.
If you're on YouTube,
bells.
the bell's
probably there.
Right there.
Twitters, tweets, and follows at Football Kennel, Instagram, Facebook. Am I doing a good job?
Yeah,
really
you're doing great.
people?
At Football Kennel on social media. Subscribe, rate 5 stars, like it, whatever you need to do.
Rate 5 stars.
Rate 5 stars, like it.
Yeah.
There's so much to do.
But yeah, life is always way better when the Browns win. So I feel
the week is good.
Everything is better. And now we're on to Dallas. That's going to be a hell of a challenge. How are they doing right now playing the Seahawks?
Let's find out.
Let's see.
You'll know by the time this episode comes out. Yeah, you'll be. It's like
they won't know
future.
because they only listen to us.
Fair. In order for you to know the score of the game,
they have to wait.
Look it up real quick.
They have to wait for the next episode too to really know. It's loading so slowly. Okay, Seattle's winning 30-22. Midway through the third. Wow, Dallas's defense is not great, but boy can they score. So that's going to be pretty interesting. Looking forward to that game. Make sure you tune in for all the action to the Kennel, a Cleveland football podcast. They're up 28-10. Tom Brady, that's my boy. And the Patriots won. A lot of exciting things going on. Oh yeah, Cincinnati and Philadelphia tied.
I know.
That's so ugly. That sucks.
That's wild.
Fucking ties, dude.
We know about that.
They're the worst. Oh, we know all too well. When we went 0-1 and it was best record on opening day since 2004. 0-1. That's like the most ridiculous.
The next step for us next year, I think, is to win week 1.
Yeah, I think we've more than earned that.
We won the home opener though, so that's pretty good. Have we done that before?
Yeah,
in a while?
You've done that probably.
Okay. Otherwise, it'd be on every graphic ever.
Yeah, you would know.
Yeah.
You would definitely know. All right, guys, thanks for listening or watching, whatever. Appreciate it. See you in a few days.
Go Browns.
Go Browns.